Yep. Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence. Wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of nonviolent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Amoga Vairochana Mahamudra Mani Padme Jvala Pravartaya
stand and join me in chanting of the 3 refuges. We first take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha in Sino-Korean, which is the root of our Zen tradition, and then in English. So please just throw your voice in, even though you may not know the Korean words, and you will then understand the English. She I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
And realize the great way.
And realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
I go for refuge to the Dharma,
and resolve with all beings
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings
I will penetrate the teachings
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha,
and resolve with all beings
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many,
and transform this world into awakened lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into awakened lands unimpeded.
Please return now to your places for another shorter period of meditation. As we begin this sitting, listen carefully to the sound of the bell. Place your hands right now on hapchang, palm to palm, and listen until you can no longer hear the bell. And then bring your hands down into a hand mudra, like this, left fingers on top of right, with the thumbs gently touching. Please join me in some stretching as an end to our meditation practice. Leaning forward, we stretch our lower back. As we do these stretches, it's important to harmonize body, breath, and mind. So good morning, everyone. How is the sound?
Good.
Good? All right. Yeah, just a little closer. So it feels a little more intimate for the remote viewers.
Good.
Just a little closer.
Okay.
Thank you. It's good to see all of you this morning. And as I look around, it feels like there is a light in each and every one of you. And this light is our Buddha nature coming out, sort of vibrant. So welcome to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in this room. How many are here for the first time? Several of you. Thank you for getting beyond the gate, so to speak, which many people see as a little bit of a barrier to getting in here and joining us for this first time. Although I think all of us in a way are here for the first time, bringing our fresh perspective, fresh mind. So my name is Ma and I am one of the resident priests at this temple. Today I'm coming to you fresh from a retreat that began Wednesday evening at 7 and ended just this morning at 9 a.m. So if my hair is a little disheveled, that's because one of our retreat guidelines is that we don't look in the mirror and do a lot of combing and grooming and things like that. I hope you bear with my scruffy appearance today. Today I would like to talk about letting go practice. So let me set the context for this. Last week was our family service. Are any of you parents, did any of you attend that service? Okay, no. But there is a parents group that meets once a week, and they talk about family, working with their families as parents, this kind of thing. And last week, their discussion was about the topic of craving, the nature of craving, which is part of the second noble truth of suffering. So in Buddhism, there are 4 noble truths. The first noble truth is suffering exists as part of the human condition. The second noble truth is the root of our suffering is what we call this craving or grasping. The third noble truth is that there is a way out of that suffering. And the fourth noble truth is the way out is to live an enlightened life following this eightfold path. And the eightfold path really breaks into 3 segments, so you only have to remember 3 things. So the first is Shila, which refers to our moral or ethical behaviors, right speech, right livelihood, right actions. The second is Samadhi, our concentration practices, which have to do with meditation and right mindfulness, these kinds of things. And then the third component is prajna, or wisdom. And so this third leg of the stool is highly interrelated to all the others. It's arriving at sort of a deep understanding of what the world is about, right view and right intentions, living our lives with purpose or intention. So this topic of craving, I'm going to read like a definition. This is from Ajahn Sumnido. He is a Theravadan monk, well-schooled in a traditional Buddhist practice. And he says, what is the noble truth of the origin of suffering? It is craving, which renews being and is accompanied by relish and lust. Relishing this and that, in other words, craving for sensual desires, craving for being, craving for non-being. So the parents who came to the group were exploring what is this craving and how do we see it arising in our lives. So some examples might be wanting more of that delicious food that I just ate, wanting my coffee every morning, wanting perhaps to be kind, generous, wise, compassionate, and really just kind of grasping onto that, like as a priest, this is what I'm supposed to be, I should be. And the third example is I shouldn't be this way. So I shouldn't be caught in my own habits and seeming detached and giving harsh words. Things shouldn't be this way. So a couple of weeks ago, I had a bout with COVID. And so it shouldn't be that I had the COVID. and I didn't have the good health to ward that off. So other expressions of craving that were noted by this group, one person said, there's a craving to talk to her son who has gone away to college for the first time. And just a sense of loss, a sense of craving to be with her son. A disappointment when a trip you're looking forward to is canceled. And also it just seems like this constant striving for happiness. So these are some different aspects of craving. As we think about craving more deeply, we have what is known as the three poisons, which keeps our suffering going round and round and round and round. Does anybody know what those are?
So greed, anger, and ignorance.
Greed, anger, and ignorance. Anger is also known as aversion. So a part of this craving that's important to understand, it's not only grasping at things that we really want, it's also pushing things away that we find aversive. And so these are very challenging. So mostly we may notice the craving when we notice something we want is not there, or when we're caught in a challenging kind of situation. So one thing that happened to me this past week is, and I don't know if this is because I had COVID mind or what was going on, but I was responding to an email that I thought came from McAfee. Does anybody heard of McAfee? So it is a computer software that's supposed to protect your computer. And it said that my subscription was about to renew, and if I didn't want it to renew, to call this number. Well, we did have McAfee at one point, and I didn't want it to renew because now we have a new product. Norton is what we use. And so I called this number, and the person who answered the phone said, that didn't come from us, that came from a scammer. That came from a hacker. So let me help you fix your computer. And so I allowed this person to access my computer. And then as the conversation went on, he said, oh, you know that charge that was going to come to you, we need to refund that. So the way we're going to refund it, let me help you with this. We're going to go through, we'll send you something through Amazon. And I thought this was a little weird. And I was beginning to get suspicious and sort of uncomfortable. But I played along for a little while and then discovered later, after the call had ended, that in fact they'd gone into Amazon and purchased PlayStation tickets for us. We don't have PlayStation. I don't even know what PlayStation is. But not only did it go to the main credit card we use for Amazon, but it got every credit card, because they were in the wallet, every credit card that had, through that Amazon account, purchased something. So it got my personal credit card, got Haji's personal credit card, this kind of thing. So I allowed myself to be duped. And the first thing that arises is, that was really stupid. Shouldn't have allowed that to happen. And I'm particularly concerned about this time that they were fixing my computer that most likely involved a scan of my computer for identifying information. So immediately swung into action because identity theft is pretty serious. And so this ended up canceling all of our credit cards, working with our bank accounts to make sure that they are secure and stable. So far, the harm done was mainly those PlayStation tickets that I got duped into authorizing. But anyway, so this felt pretty traumatizing to me, as felt like I had been robbed and violated and things like this. And so started to create a lot of stories going round and round and round and round in my head about them. And discovering in the process some of the cravings that I had. It was pretty interesting. So we had no access to credit cards for about 10 days. And I rediscovered cash. I rediscovered checks. Hadn't had these things for a while. And that was interesting. At first, there was a lot of fear. And then, the fear, for example, I have prescriptions. Could I go to the pharmacy and get my prescriptions and pay for them? Well, yes, the pharmacy is happy to accept checks and they're happy to accept cash. So it was okay. And also, when I had real money in my hands, I became aware of how many things that I purchase that I don't need to purchase. And it is fine to go without them. So this is kind of the context for a further exploration of letting go practice. And I say letting go because I approached this retreat. This is all going on at the same time. We're getting ready for the retreat. So I came to the retreat with a sense of quite a bit of agitation and these stories going around and around in my head that, oh, my identity has been stolen and I will never be the same person again. I'll never feel safe. All these kinds of things. I have to live my life differently. Well, maybe some of those things are true. But what is identity anyway? That's kind of attachment to self and my way of life. So with all of these stories, get to the retreat. And I don't know how many of you have been on a Zen retreat. When I say that to people, oh, I'm going on retreat, they say, oh, how wonderful, it's going to be so peaceful, relaxing. But for any of you who've been on a Zen retreat, it's more like going to boot camp. It's more like non-invasive brain surgery, these kinds of things. The schedule's pretty challenging. So we get up at 5 a.m. every day, and our day doesn't end until 10 p.m. And throughout the day, we do 8 hours of formal meditation practice, plus several hours of manual labor, physical, hard work. And so it's a challenging, tiring schedule. Well, why the heck would we do all this stuff? What is the benefit of this? This is sort of the non-invasive brain surgery part. If you sit in meditation for many, many hours, what you're doing is working with yourself, all your thought patterns, all your habits, those are all there, and you have to deal with them. One of our retreat guidelines is to try to not get caught in negative thoughts or stories. And for me, this was a challenge at this particular time. And so what did I learn as I went through this? I jotted down a few notes, even though you're not supposed to be writing anything while you're on retreat. I thought I would jot a few things down. It might help with this Dharma talk. So one thing that I learned is that this letting go process is kind of slow. You have to let go of it again and again and again. And so the stories, this traumatic, quote unquote, traumatic story that kept circulating through my mind, I had to let it go again and again and again and again. And so this letting go practice involved coming back to the breath a lot and noticing what was going on with my body. We have interviews during the retreat, and one-on-one interviews, and Haju works with us on our practice. And Haju reminded me that just come back to the pauses that you notice between the out breath and the in breath. So it's as simple as that. And I have a meditation practice, What Is It?, which I use to invoke sort of a sense of curiosity, connectedness, observation, coming to that practice, back to that practice again and again and again. So during the retreat, worked on being present in our body. And this is kind of interesting because when you sit still for a really long time, a lot of aches and pains come up. And sometimes just feel like jumping up off that mat and cushion and running out of the room, this kind of thing. But as I was working with some of those aches and pains, just noticing that beneath those aches and pains, there's sort of this vibrant energy and how alive my body is. That it's a sense of movement all the time. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is permanent. And there's this vast realm of discovery that we can get into. During the retreat, we receive evening Dharma talks, and we were talking about, in one of the Dharma talks, we were talking about the information superhighway, and the information superhighway is the stuff that's external to us. If you think about cell phones and the absence of cell phones, so that's a kind of craving that it's good to let go of. And so, that is the ultimate of the information superhighway, that device, all the information you want at your fingertips. However, that's not where the answer is. The answer is within ourselves and within our own experience. So it was important to come back to that as part of the retreat practice. So back to this, the noble truth of craving. Ajahn Sumedha says that this noble truth, the way we work with this noble truth is to abandon the origin of suffering. So our job in working with it is it's to let go of the craving, not to let go of the suffering, because the suffering is always going to be there. That's part of the human condition. But to let go of this grasping, whatever it is that we're holding on to. And it's trying to not be attached. One example that Ajahn Sumedha gave is like this clock. I was a timekeeper for the retreat, so I had to pay attention to the clock and make sure that we were on schedule with meditation periods and work practice and all that. So in some retreats when I've done, it felt like this clock ruled my life, that I was responsible for this clock and keeping everybody on track. That doesn't mean the clock is bad or the clock is not useful. It just means I need to put it aside and not be so attached to it. if I let go of this craving for keeping a strict schedule, then the whole retreat flows more smoothly because I'm more in tune with all the participants and what our needs are. So, I mean, sometimes our meditation period is 5 minutes shorter. Sometimes it's a little longer. It's being in tune with other things. So, Pema Chodron says this letting go practice, which is how I think the Theravada tradition defines and explains it. It's about not holding back, pulling away, or shutting down. And once we do this, we can open up to new possibilities. So, an example was when I let go of the need for that credit card as the only form of currency, I rediscovered cash and checks, and that opened to new possibilities. So what happens when you don't have the luxury of attending a retreat and sitting for 8, 9 hours a day and working with all of this stuff? We still have craving going on in our everyday lives. We still have this letting go practice that we can cultivate. So there is another Theravada monk. His name is Ajahn Brahm. He has actually quite a few YouTube videos. Has anybody seen any of them? Yeah, okay. They're usually pretty good and very down to earth and practical. So he was talking about this letting go practice. And he said there are 4 ways that you can do this in everyday life. So the first is to examine what is in your backpack that you are carrying around with you all the time. Because that backpack is only heavy if you put too many things into it. So look into it and see what you can take out. That heavy backpack results in exhaustion. Just see what you can jettison. And so a story that he offered, which is a classic Zen story, is there were 2 monks, walking along. They were taking a trek from one monastery to another. And they saw a woman standing at the edge of the stream, carrying too many things, so she couldn't cross by herself. She needed some help. So one of the monks just picked her up, took her on his back over to the other side of the stream and set her down. The other monk was horrified because part of the ethical code for that particular tradition was not to touch or interact with females in this way. This was a male monk. And so, the 2 monks were walking along for quite a while. And the second monk who had this moral dilemma finally said, "Aren't you bothered at all by picking up that woman back there? That is not something you should have done, carried her across the stream." And the first monk said, "I put her down a long time ago. Why haven't you put her down?" So I'm just releasing what is in the backpack. Another Zen story comes from our particular Korean tradition. There was one of our more famous monks, Mongong, Kyohong. I'm sorry, getting my monks mixed up. Kyungho, who had a student called Mongong. And they went to the market one day, not the market, they were out on begging rounds. And they received a large amount of rice, which the monastery really needed. So Mongong the more junior monk had to carry it out of respect for the more senior teacher. So he had this literally heavy backpack, and they had to walk all the way up the mountain to get back to the monastery. And so this younger monk, Mongam, was sort of whining and complaining and saying, can we stop and rest, and all this kind of thing. And so Kyung-ho, when they were walking through the village, he grabbed a young woman and gave her a kiss on the mouth. And of course, the villagers were horrified by this, and they started chasing the monks and throwing things at them and say, how could you do this? You're monks. And so they had to run for a couple of miles. And then when they finally stopped, Kyo-hong said, is that bag heavy now? And Mongam said, what heavy? It didn't even enter his mind at that point. So he shifted his perspective. He shifted his relationship to that heavy backpack. So this is kind of how we jettison things that we're carrying around with us, is we try to change our relationship to them. If you can't take items out of your backpack, you can change your relationship to them. The second guideline was learn what contentment is. So Ajahn Brahm said, this has to do with wanting to be where you are, reminding yourself that you have made these choices. And his example is, what's the difference between a monastery and a prison? You want to be in the monastery. You don't want to be in the prison. Even though when you're on retreat or when you're in the monastery, it sometimes maybe feels like it could be a prison, because you don't have any control of your schedule, you don't have any control over what you eat, any of these kinds of things. But just reminding ourselves that we're content with the choices that we made. The third guideline is practicing generosity. And generosity really is one of our paramita practices. And this involves just sharing what we have, giving what we have without expectation of return. So there's no giver, there's no gift, no receiver. And that is quite liberating. And if you think of this in terms of letting go of craving, letting go of possessions in particular, it's very helpful. So when you see that person on the street, just give. They've asked you for something. Practice generosity. Many opportunities to practice generosity. And then his fourth guideline is have a Teflon mind. I think I might translate this into cultivate don't know mind. So it is not getting stuck in our preconceived notions. Rather, it is just being present with what is and allowing things to arise. Recently, I had opportunity to watch this little movie called Yak in the Classroom. Has anybody seen it? It's a really cool movie if you have access to Netflix and want to watch it. It is about this young man from Bhutan. Bhutan actually is known as the happiest country in the world. And he is a teacher. He doesn't like being a teacher very much. He just wants to get out of there. He wants to move to Australia. And so he's resistive. And one day, his supervisor called him into the office and say, "You're the least motivated teacher we have ever had. And so I'm sending you on this special assignment. You're going to teach in this remote village. It's really probably the most remote village in the world. And so you're going to go there for 3 months and teach during the summer, because when it gets cold, you have to get out of there. You'll get snowed in. Then when you come back, you can go to Australia. So he goes off on this trip with all his preconceived kind of notions, carrying with him his, cell phone, headphones. He loved to listen to a lot of music, doing all this stuff, being met by his hosts who take him for this 3-day walk in order to get to the village. Along the way, his cell phone dies. Can't listen to the music anymore. He starts noticing the beauty of his surroundings, because this is really a pretty awesome, beautiful place that he's walking through. So they get near the village, and the whole village population, I think 56, comes out to greet them. Oh, the teacher, you have come. We are so grateful. Our children really are very, very eager to have their lessons. I think there were maybe 10 kids in the whole village. So he's escorted to the classroom, finding it in pretty crude conditions, having to work with very little to instruct these students. So he right away said, I can't do this. This is impossible. I'm going back. I'm not your person. I am not going to teach these kids. But then one of the children, she said, I'm the class leader. She came up to him and said, she comes to his door and says, we're all waiting for you to come and teach us. So he said, well, okay, I'll be there. Give me about 20 minutes. And shows up at the classroom. And then you see this beautiful sort of unfolding of a relationship between this resistive, reluctant teacher and the children that he was to teach. And you saw him letting go of all the preconceived notions, getting to this place of don't know mind, don't know what's happening next, don't know what's happening with these yak herders whose most important skill is to know how to sing as a way of communicating. And this whole journey of discovery, which you can't have if you have this fixed notion of I don't like teaching and I'm going to Australia. Of course, at the end of 3 months, he's a little reluctant to leave, but he does. He goes to Australia, and in Australia comes to terms with, I've just left the happiest place on earth. And I think probably decides to go back. So wonderful things can happen if we work with our don't know mind. So again, there's 4 guidelines. Check your backpack, see what you can throw away. Learn what contentment is, knowing that you're here because you want to be here, and you made this choice. Practice generosity and cultivate don't know mind. So there you have it. That's what I've discovered about letting go practice in this past little while as a bridge from the craving discussion that was going on last week. Where do we go from there? So we have just a few minutes, probably about 5 minutes. I talked a little longer than I thought. But if anybody has comments or questions they want to offer, would welcome hearing.
So I actually recently left a pretty high-paying full-time job, and I was able to spend more time with my kids. I'm gonna have more time to myself, and in the meantime, I've picked up 3 part-time jobs. I don't know why. I don't have reason to. And I was thinking about it this morning actually, where I was like, oh, like Tuesdays and Fridays are supposed to be my day. I've given them to someone else. At this point, I'm actually working more than 40 hours a week. And then I got a call from a daycare teacher who I told I would help. And she was crying because she was so happy because she didn't know if she was going to be able to be open this day because there weren't enough teachers. And then it's also my kids' daycare. So like I'll get to be able to spend the whole day with my kids. And what turned into like and it's not even until Thursday and Friday. Like I was dreading it yesterday. And my kids overheard it, and now they're super excited for me to come to school with them. And it immediately changed my mindset from, oh no, this is supposed to be my day, to I actually get to spend the whole day with my kids, and I'll be paid for it. And it immediately turned that what was more of an obligation to more of like an opportunity for me. And it was nice because it kind of actually happened on the car ride here, where I was like, like I really don't want to do this on Friday, and now I'm more looking forward to it than anything because, I mean, they sent me the curriculum. I'll be finger painting and making construction butterflies. Like it's probably the best job you could ever have, and it kind of falls right into line. So like instead of seeing it as something I have to do, it's something more I get to do.
Thank you for sharing. And more things may come up for you later, so I encourage you to process any of this information is useful to you and have discussions with each other maybe at a later time. So, because I do like this clock, and I want us to end on time so you can get to your practice period, we'll conclude for now. So if you can join me in the 4 great vows, then we'll have some announcements. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Blind passions, one root, I vow to terminate. Dharma gates, one mind, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to live.
Thank you, Mom. Good morning. Welcome in from the 10 directions. My name is Oso Gill. I'll be doing the announcements, but actually, I'd like to first invite Magamak to talk about our practice period, which is beginning, I think, right now.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Ahsoka.
Hi, everybody. So I'm really excited to be leading the practice period starting today. Those who are participating, and we have a big group, we have like 10 people. We're going to commit to an individual home-based practice, which can be different for every person. And we're going to discuss this book called Buddhism Plain and Simple by Steve Hagen. So over the course of 8 weeks, we're going to meet and do that. The temple offers practice periods 1 or 2 times a year. Today's the first day of our 8-week practice period. We're going to meet here from 11:45 until 1 p.m. And so we'd like to ask for some help after the service getting this room ready. We want to keep the first row of mats and cushions on each side in place for the 4:30 service today, for 4 p.m. service today. But what we'd like to do is to move these 2 rows of mats and cushions out, and also that back row over there. And we're going to put the mats in that corner with the openings all facing the same side. And we're going to put the cushions over here. So look forward to seeing you, with those who are participating in the practice period. It's going to start at 11:45.
Which is in
This room.
13 minutes, and in this room, yes. We have recently changed our schedule so that we only offer the 4 p.m. service on the first and third weeks of the month, which is this week. So if you'd like to join us for the 4 p.m. service, this week we'll be having one. We also have an online Sangha at 8 p.m. Is that on Wednesdays?
It's on Sunday evenings.
Sunday evenings, and that can be found on our website. We have an upcoming family service on November 13th. Those tend to be the second Sundays of the month. We just concluded the fall Yangmin Zhangjin, but we do have a one-day retreat coming up on Saturday, November 26th. And we also have a winter Yangmin Zhangjin, which will be in Toronto, Chicago, and Mexico City. And there are sign-up sheets for all of these things that I'm talking about right now and I'm about to talk about if you're interested. We have an introductory meditation course, which is Thursday evenings, 6:30 to 8:30. That's a 5-week session, and one will be starting here on October 20th. So please sign up if you're interested in that. We also have yoga classes, which are Tuesday evenings, 6:30 to 8. And one of those sessions will be beginning on October 18th. I think those are 6 weeks.
Yeah.
6 weeks.
They're sort of ongoing.
Ongoing.
Yeah.
Magamak already mentioned the practice period. We also have a couple of Zoom meetings. We have a member sitting and song meditation study, which is Wednesdays, 6:30 to 8. That is on Zoom. We also have a Way of the Bodhisattva study group, which is Thursdays, 9:30 to 10 a.m., and that's also on Zoom. We have a couple of special groups which have been meeting. We have Recovery Dharma, which will be meeting today at noon.
Next,
In the Yellow House.
Yellow House in the library.
In the library. We also have the BIPOC meditation group, which I think is Saturdays at 3.
At 3, and we're probably gonna have other meetings, and we have a Facebook group.
There's a Facebook group. Great.
Okay.
I think that might be it. Did I miss anything?
Yeah.
How'd you have something?
We usually have a little work period after the service on Sunday. And today we are going to cut up some bush trees that we cut down yesterday. And I think it's just about a 10-minute job and kind of fun. So please, after the service, if you're not involved in one of the other activities, you'd be most welcome to come and help cut up some bush trees. No experience necessary.
Don't you said, I don't need the microphone. Someone, did the power washer get into the van? Is it in the van ready to go, or is it still on the sidewalk?
It is in the shop. I put it in the shop last night.
So we need just a couple people to help lift it into the van because we have to return it tomorrow. So maybe before people follow the bush, they can do that.
The bush cutters can help.
There's lots of opportunities for manual labor. We also have the work practice Saturdays in the afternoon, although that's sort of winding down now that the garden is, it's getting colder out. Lastly, the temple is supported by your kind donations of time and money. We just enumerated a lot of ways that you can donate your time right now, but there's also a fishbowl outside for monetary donations. And if you'd like to sign up for our email newsletter, there's also a sign-up sheet for that.
Right, so please stand and we'll conclude with 3 formal bows. So facing the altar, breathing, feeling your feet just connected to the floor.